Joe. This is a little embarrassing, but I need to start off this episode with a bit of an apology, if that's okay.
I've been waiting for this for over a decade, and I am smiling, and I am excited, and I am open to this, and I've been waiting, and here we go.
Because usually well, this is not about you.
Oh.
Sorry. I thought,
what?
What do you think I have to apologize to you about?
Oh.
What do you...
No.
Is there some sort of debt of gratitude or something that you feel about, like... No, this is about fucking John Krasinski.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. I know. Oh, right.
Okay, yeah. So in the past, we've given Krasinski a hard time on this show.
Sure.
Me in particular.
Absolutely.
But you are complicit in that.
I sit there silently. I let you do all the dirty work.
And... Of course, this is John Krasinski, Jim from The Office. He directed A Quiet Place. If he was in the Benghazi movie, the Jack Ryan TV show. We know John Krasinski.
12 Horses? What was that called? 12 Soldiers?
Benghazi, the 12... Yeah, no. Oh, that's a separate movie from the Benghazi movie.
No, but yeah, he's in 12 Strong or something.
Fuck, he's in so many military industrial complex movies. Yeah. That's one of the things that we've criticized him about is being this sort of simp, being this just aggressive simp for the CIA.
He's a branded. It's like,
are your children
for
being held hostage in at Langley?
No,
why are you doing
they pay
this?
Great, and he doesn't give a hoot.
You're right. It's like Ronald Reagan for GE, and now Krasinski for the CIA.
Whatever.
He also profited off of COVID when he sold that dumb quarantine live stream. He was doing some good news to CBS Viacom for several $1 million and then was never heard from again. I think we've just criticized him in general for being sort of a hack and a mediocre derivative talent who, somehow markets his movies as from the imagination of John Krasinski, like he's fucking Steven Spielberg, even though all his ideas are basically stolen or borrowed or some version of that. But, Joe, this is where I need to apologize.
Okay.
Because I did not realize this entire time, and maybe I would have chosen my words more carefully. I did not realize that John Krasinski was the sexiest man alive. The sexiest living man.
Apology.
I'm so sorry. I did not realize this.
Now you know.
I got to tread lightly from now on.
Okay. Now you know.
Because,
Who'd you think it was going to be?
People doesn't... honestly... Has Reynolds won it yet?
Well, all jokes aside, actually, no, Reynolds has passed on the honor, just like this year, Glenn Powell, apparently, I heard behind the sines, passed on the honor.
Krasinski took Powell's leftovers. Okay, never mind. Okay, apology retracted. Apology retracted. I thought you earned this thing fair and square via your publicist.
Fair and square via the publicist, working the angles, but really, apparently, word on the street is... Glenn
but wait a second,
much like Ryan Reynolds has previously.
So then Krasinski is not the sexiest man alive.
Second
sexiest. Well, third, I guess, if Reynolds was like, well, we know Reynolds won't take it.
Oh wait, I'm thinking of Gosling. Reynolds would have accepted.
Reynolds would have. Yeah. Okay. Now. Okay. I was like, what?
I apologize. I'm talking about Gosling.
Famously on Funny Ryan Reynolds, he would have taken it in a second.
Look, this isn't like my area of expertise.
Yes.
So I'm talking a bit out my buns. But what I read today was
that makes so much more sense.
Glenn was offered. Glenn passed because he's savvy.
Gosling historically passes.
passes because he's cool.
And Krasinski was like, I'll take that.
Oh yeah.
I'll take that.
He couldn't wait.
I'll take that.
Jumping for joy.
Okay, so he's not the sexiest man alive then. Got
Second.
It. Okay. Unless accepting the honor is part of what makes you the sexiest man alive.
I think definitely.
That's
I think that's definitely part of it.
I don't know. This now feels a lot more rickety. I thought he was unequivocally sexiest man alive. Well, I guess we should still do this though, because as an olive branch, I wanted to. I've put a lot of words in his mouth over the episodes.
He's the sexiest man alive. He's on the cover.
Okay.
He's on the cover.
I wanted to let the man speak for himself, so I thought we would look at a couple pages from People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive issue, and it's got some fun quotes from Krasinski, and let's just see what the man has to say for himself. So, if we can see the cover.
Okay, I'd actually be interested in seeing
the cover of People's Sexiest Man Alive 2024 issue. Here it is. He's looking very hot. Good. He's sitting on the...
He's not sexy to me, but I see he's very attractive and he looks great in this picture.
He's sitting on a taxi.
And
it says, hey, taxi. Right. What does that refer to?
Hey, taxi. No idea.
There's a lot of taxi sort of
Maybe he's like, I don't want people thinking I'm sitting on top of a yellow Uber.
Yeah.
Put hey taxi on the grill.
An old school New York taxi.
My biggest turn on is America.
Oh, so here's his first.
What?
There's a nice quote on the cover here. And it says My biggest turn on is America's $1 trillion military budget. That's a crazy quote for the cover. That's on the cover of People?
Nice. I see.
That's on the cover of People magazine? That's wild.
That's funny.
All right, let's take a look at a few of the inside pages.
This is like I'm getting my very own real-time
put on a little
section. You know, like when
put on a little performance
when
for you,
Mars
Joe.
transitioning to have like the book guest come out in the third act, he always does like, all right, quick, we're going to do a couple jokes up on the screen.
Yes, that's right.
Where I'm going to swap.
That's what this is.
I love this.
I'm doing a couple jokes for you, Joe.
I love this.
Okay,
all right, hit me.
All right. So next up, this is about a project he's considering. That's so interesting.
Oh, no.
He says...
Oh, no. Wow, he's
He says... I want to remake The Lives of Others. Great movie. Great movie.
One of the most underrated movies
so good.
of the century so far.
So good. We were briefly talking the other week about doing our top, 20 of the 21st century, and we're like, is Lives of Others
top 10, top 5?
Yeah.
Is it number 1?
Yeah, what's
better?
Where is it?
Right.
Incredible movie about, the East German autocratic sort of state and the secret police, the Stasi, who kind of interrogated and surveilled and ran everything.
Highly
so John,
recommend.
This is cool. He wants to make a remake. He wants to make a remake. I want to remake The Lives of Others, but make it more about make it more about the Stasi leadership.
Okay.
What were their lives like? What did they eat for dinner? What made them feel sexy? Cool. All right. So he wants
a weird angle. Doesn't make sense.
He wants to remake The Lives of Others, but really dig into the Stasi. Okay. All right. So here he is looking very just like Jim. He's giving that Jim vibe. Like, I'm sexy and I know it, but I wish I wasn't so sexy. He says here, when I got buff for the Benghazi movie, I think that was the first
13
movie.
hours.
13 hours was the first one he got real ripped for.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I really...
Because he brand transitioned from Jim.
Yes,
he tried directing.
right.
That flopped. He's like, okay, I'll
That's
hardtack to beefy, militarized, middle management guy.
That's right. So this was the beginning. This was like, what was it? Chris Pratt in Guardians. Like, this is Kumail in The Eternals. Okay, this was the movie he got buff for, right? Okay. When I got buff for the Benghazi movie, something clicked during my workouts, and I was like, oh, right. Kill them all and let God sort them out. Duh.
Come on, John.
So he gets real intense during those workouts. I guess that's where the muscles came from. And here we go. Oh, this is... Okay, so he's addressing the famous From the Imagination of John Krasinski tagline that was put on If.
That's right.
And we don't know if that was marketing teams or what, but John loved it. John
ate it
loved
up.
it. Loved
From
it.
the mind
of?
It gobbled.
So he got a little from the imagination of.
It's even better.
Right? So he got a little guff for it, so he's addressing it here. From the Imagination of John Krasinski is a little joke between me and Paramount. Okay, it's a joke. Okay. Is a little joke between me and Paramount, because if you saw what goes on inside my actual imagination, it would make you puke.
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
Something
I guess
sexy,
just
I guess.
like blood and warfare.
Maybe it's like a sexy
and like
puke.
ancient. Oh, you think it's okay?
I don't know. I'm wondering.
Okay.
Why would it be mentioned in this interview? What's this one say?
He's looking very like tough and real here.
You think that's a person looking tough and real? To the podcast listeners, no person's ever looked less tough, and no person's ever looked less real than this awful picture.
I don't know. He seems
he's
trying.
Krasinski.
He's trying to give us fashion model.
This is the worst of the whole shoot.
All right,
I've been cataloging them as we go along.
I like the white tee on white background. A little sort of.
No, thank you.
Little, what is that? Houndstooth.
Little fucking like New York Minute John.
Yeah, here we go.
He's always in movement.
Always in a rush. And he's got
Horrible.
the necklace, so he's like tough.
Look at this terrible fucking 5 o'clock shadow asshole.
It's pretty even.
Stuffy, gruffy mother.
He's got the hair going. Okay, so what does he have to say here? He's talking about the movie If. His movie this year, If. Imaginary Friend, his little kids movie, whimsical kids movie. He says, If is a psyop. Jesus.
Okay. He's just coming right out.
Yeah, okay, he's just saying it. Okay. If is a psyop. I'm comfortable telling you that because it's too late to stop it. You can't stop what's coming. Okay, so...
So do you think he recorded this interview before the election and like
is that what he meant?
He's like a QAnon guy, like the storm is coming.
Wow.
Like you can't stop what's coming, kind of like the storm is coming kind of energy. Maybe he just knew.
Yeah.
He just predicted red wave and was talking about that, or maybe it has nothing to do with politics and something far more
I'm terrified.
ancient or perhaps creature-esque is going to emerge. I don't know.
It sounds like H.P. Lovecraft kind of some sort of Cthulhu demon is on the rise.
Cthulhu,
it's interesting that he chose the Sexiest Man Alive issue to like sort of soft launch this new role as some sort of like
sex sells, baby.
Apocalypse prophet like warlord or something that he's sort
Rasputin had a
of
huge
transitioning
cock, you know?
into. That's right.
Like,
he did have a
tale,
huge cock.
It's a tale as old as time.
You can see it in one of those museums in Russia. Maybe the Hermitage has Rasputin's cock. I'm not sure. In formaldehyde.
And just like we learned in Heretic, Krasinski's just a pale imitation 3 generations down from Rasputin, you know?
He really is our generation's Rasputin.
He's a hat on
I was
a hat
never
on a
comfortable with that Elon Musk comparison, which I think is the last one we tried to pin on him. Hollywood's
Krasinski's
Elon Musk.
Rasputin.
He's Rasputin. No, he has darker intentions.
Apparently.
He has much
in the
darker
interview.
intentions. Well, I wish him the best. This week on Movies Baby, it's New Movie Palooza. Between the two of us this week, Joe and I watched, count them, Heretic, Emilia Perez, Juror number 2, and We Live in Time. We're going to tell you what we thought, whether they're worth your time. Plus, we've got box office updates, Joe's got his latest horror power rankings. I'm going to update my famous list of the top 10 Hugh Grant performances of all time. I cannot wait to do that. And that's just in the first half of the show, because in the second half of the show, we're doing our first Oscar power rankings, baby. We're going to kick it off today. We're going to do Best Picture and Director. We're going to take the temperature of the different trades, see what they're saying. We're going to come up with our own power rankings for Picture and Director. And then we're going to be tracking this over the coming months, weeks, etc., as we get closer to the Oscars. And we'll see the rise and fall and fortunes of these various movies. A lot of them haven't come out yet, so it's just based on sort of vibes and festival buzz and stuff like that. So we're going to come up with our power rankings. Next week, we'll do the performance categories, actor, actress, lead, supporting. That is all only on Patreon, patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. Don't miss it. You can go over there and sign up for a 7-day free trial. That'll get you through tonight. Maybe depending on when you sign up, we'll get you through next week's episode as well. You can see how you like these power rankings, see where you want to go from there. I think you're going to love them. I think you're going to stick around. Yeah. The real heads are over on Patreon. Yep. We hope to see you there. Joe, what do you say? You ready?
Hit me.
Margo, roll that theme song, please. There it is. Oh, yes. I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. But how about you? Do you have it bad too? What do you do? Whenever one ends, it's like the death of a friend. I get to wishing that there were 2 more reels. And then a voice cries out, "Move, baby, you're in my seat, and you don't want to mess with who the Philly movie freaks." Oh, fucking Smokehouse? What happened?
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. Yes, it's true.
Ghost of Jim Cagney's pissed in his
Oh,
martini.
I've got it bad, too.
He's got it bad.
Every night of the year, like the moon, I appear at all the movie theaters all over town.
Even that fucking
cut to black.
Lumiere
roll credits. Whoa, baby, I'm lost in a fog. I need someone to talk to.
Hi.
Look, the Georgia movie dog. It's Brett, the Georgia movie dog.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
Yeah!
Welcome to Movies, Baby, the weekly show where we break down the latest, hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of our beloved Hollywood. I am Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, here as always with Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie.
That's right. Dog. Go Dogs! Tough loss, Joe. Last weekend to Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Tough loss. And it don't get any easier this weekend with Tennessee coming to town. I got 3 words for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Strength of schedule, baby. But we're not here to talk college football. We're here to talk movies. Margo, can you show me the money? Well, if it isn't last weekend's box office returns, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, because as we predicted, it wasn't hard to predict. Venom: The Last Dance topped the box office for the 3rd straight week, just cleaning up in this little election malaise interim we're in before we get to Wicked and Gladiator 2 and Moana
doing
2.
great internationally.
Doing
big
incredible
W
internationally. Venom picked up another $16 million this week domestic, raising its domestic total to $119 million. Add to that, like you said, a stellar $279 million internationally.
That's
Joe,
crazy.
Venom
bro.
is closing in on $400 million total and is currently one of the 10 biggest movies of the year.
God bless. Under $100 million to make too.
Yeah, and it all has to do with
80 million?
timing because a soft opening combined with so-so reviews doesn't typically give you 3 weeks in a row at number one. But when you're the only tentpole in sight, I guess just gravity takes over and you kind of win the day.
Hollywood traditionally leaves out those election weekends before and after. Okay, so note taken. Every studio, remember, next election.
Launch right before.
Release it before the
right
week,
before.
2 weekends before the election.
Because guess what people
You
want to
get
do when
3
they're
to 4
sad about the
weeks.
election is go see a fucking movie.
Venom: The Last Dance would be perfect for that.
That being said, still a down year for comic book movies because I doubt Venom, even though it's in the top 10 right now, I think it's at 9, closing in on 8. Unlikely that it ends the year in the top 10 with Wicked, Gladiator 2, Moana 2, Sonic 3 still set to come out. And so it's likely that we end this year with only one comic book movie in the top 10, Deadpool and Wolverine at number 2. I didn't get a chance before the show. Maybe I'll do it for a future show. I don't know the last time that happened, that we only had one comic book movie in the top 10 in this era of Marvel
Great question.
/DC dominance. It must have been a second.
20 years.
It has to be have been a
years?
second. Yeah. I mean, maybe last year was the last year.
Right.
Also a down year.
Good point.
But you had Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You had some stuff going on last year. Actually, I'm just going to check really quickly. This is pulling up right now. Last year's worldwide box office was Guardians at 4, Spider-Man at 6. So it wasn't last year. So I don't know. If somebody wants to check for me, the last time that there was only one comic book movie in the top 10. When was the last time that happened? Because that's the year that we're looking at. Unless one or more of Gladiator 2, Wicked, Moana 2, Sonic 3 like bombs, but I don't see that happening.
No.
They're spaced out. They have tons of buzz.
The first 3 you mentioned, there's a 0% chance
no way.
it's bombing.
And if those 3 even do like just basic projections, then Venom will be out of the top 10.
It's going to
the
be
year.
an amazing Thanksgiving weekend.
It really is.
The
I can't
bookending
wait.
weekends are going to break Hollywood wide open and make this whole entire year a version of worth it.
I can't wait. And we also had a couple new openers that did nice numbers. Heretic came in at 11 on an under $10 million budget.
I think you're underselling it. I think that number's tremendous. What more could you possibly want?
Great
Especially
point.
we see these really good performing horror movies coming in like 8, 10, 12 opening weekends, and there's Heretic, bang, 11. Like A24 has to be fucking thrilled.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And we'll give our review of Heretic shortly. And then you also had a movie that we are absolutely not going to see, the best Christmas pageant ever with the lovely Judy Greer and, god awful Pete Holmes doing his making Christianity safe for hipsters shtick or whatever he does. I don't get it, but I don't like it. I'm not watching this movie. Yeah, Pete Holmes is the dad in the best Christmas pageant ever. But Lionsgate. Finally, the tiniest bit of good news, because the best Christmas pageant ever did close to $11 million off a $10 million budget in its opening weekend.
Cool.
So there you go. You got to take the wins where you can this year,
Love that.
Lionsgate.
Whatever.
Best Christmas pageant ever, and the new Strangers movie is I guess the light at the end of the tunnel for Lionsgate. Next week we're probably almost inevitably looking at Red 1 taking over the top spot. That's the Santa Claus adventure movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and others, only because Venom 3 is dropping. There's just Red 1 right now is projected to do a $30 million opening weekend, which is a hard drop historically for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's used to much bigger openings, but it's been kind of a decline lately. I mean, going back, I looked, his last 5, kind of like movies that he was the lead in, Rampage 35, Skyscraper 25, Jumanji The Next Level 59, Jungle Cruise 35, Black Adam 67.
That's when it goes really down. Yeah.
He just hasn't been the star of a big hit movie in a second. I know he's in the Fast and Furious ensemble, but I'm not giving him credit for that. So it's projected to sort of continue this trend of just this sort of long fizzling out of The Rock's movie career, and it's projected to do 30, but a lot of people are saying it's just with the bad reviews and the no buzz, it's looking probably closer to 20,
and
25.
everyone's like, next weekend's Wicked. We'll just wait to take the family
Why would you go to Red
weekend.
1
Right.
the weekend before
You
Gladiator
just
2
love
and
Santa,
Wicked. I guess you're dying for a Christmas movie.
You just got to go to the movies.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, to quote the rap, Red One will be a small appetizer for theaters to the box office feast ahead. That's what we're looking at over the next 3 weeks. Now, we don't have any movie news for you this week because we've got a lot of movies to review, and we also have some fun little lists that we're going to do. So let's get into this, Joe. Next up, we're going to review this week's new releases: Heretic, Emilia Perez, Juror number 2, We Live in Time, newish releases across the board. Some of those we're just catching up to. And while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers in our reviews, it's impossible to give an honest review of these stinking movies without talking about them in their entirety. And so if we're reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled in the least, not even a little bit, we recommend that you play it safe, put us on mute, rejoin us when we move on to the next movie. If you're watching, just keep an eye on the lower third. That'll tell you what we're reviewing. If you are doing this on replay, you can look in the notes. I have everything time-coded out for you. All right, on with the reviews, starting with Heretic. Written and directed by the team of Scott Beck and Brian Woods, whose careers got off to a bang, speaking of John Krasinski, when they sold the script for A Quiet Place. And then John Krasinski said, I'll take that from my imagination. And since then, they've been bouncing around, doing a couple low-budget horrors. They did a movie I really enjoyed called 65 with Adam Driver, where he's like it's a Planet of the Apes thing where he's like a future spaceman, but he crash lands on like old Earth, dinosaur Earth, and has to like shoot dinosaurs with laser beams. There's a lot of good Jurassic Parky sort of scary dinosaur silhouettes in the rain and stuff. I had a lot of fun with that movie. Not a masterpiece by any stretch, but a fun little watch. But they've kind of been flying under the radar. And this movie feels like them really staking their claim and maybe changing the course of their careers because, number one, it's an A24 release, right? One of the premier horror brands, and particularly sort of like prestige horror brands. And it's they got as the DP for this. I was like, why does this look so good? The DP was Chung Hoon, Park Chan-wook's like personal cinematographer, the guy that fucking shot Old Boy and The Handmaiden shot this movie. So Beck and Woods, I thought were kind of sort of like spiraling out, sort of doing smaller and smaller projects, probably never going to sort of reach the heights of A Quiet Place again. I don't know. They really pulled one off here, getting a movie distributed by A24 and shot by Chung Hoon, and getting a really great cast with Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East in the 3 leads. The movie tells the story of 2 Mormon missionaries who attempt to convert a reclusive Englishman only to realize that he is more dangerous than he seems and is way more into religion than they ever knew before they knocked on his door. Joe, what'd you think of Heretic?
I really liked Heretic. I think that, so the movie is about, like Brett said, this man who's obsessed with religion, and he puts the 2 young Mormon women through one of his wicked little games, right? And it's all played out about theology and religion and making choices about belief and disbelief. So on its face, just knowing that going into it, I was like, please no. Like when people want to talk about religion, even worse than that, when people want to talk about like Joseph Campbell and how religion's not real, I was like, no. I don't want to hear like broad speak about like theology or like any sort of like broad sort of thematic stupidity regarding religion. And because of the strength of the performances in this movie and because of the strength of the cinematography in this movie, I believe that it transcends that trap pretty nicely. I think we get through the religion stuff nice and clean because it's so fun to watch Hugh Grant sort of perform the scene and do the thing. And I thought that Chloe East and Sophie Thatcher were really good at watching Hugh do his thing and listening and responding and getting all their eye twitches perfect. They were awesome. So I think the movie kind of sucks you in. It has really nice tension up top. The movie takes place primarily in a house, primarily in essentially 3 different rooms of a house. And it's just one of these movies where the cinematographer makes an absolute effing meal out of nothing. Yeah. Nothing. To make it, and the editor too, and the directors and the screenwriters all get credit for keeping this thing zipping along. is this movie some great horror movie? No. But I think this movie is a really good horror movie that took me by surprise, had a lot of fun elements. I enjoyed sort of the spooky ending. Its contrivances weren't the end of the world for me. This is definitely on the good half of horror movies that I really like this year, and we'll see if it appears in my horror power ranking.
Okay. So it could not appear at all. Is it? What is your rankings? Top 10?
Well, tonight I'm showing you guys the top 10, top 12. I'm actually showing you.
Okay.
Power ranking.
Will it make the top 12 of your power ranking?
We'll see.
The question. Okay.
There's 31 horror movies is on the list so far, so we'll see.
Wow. So it's
to be in the top 12, it had to be one of the.
It's definitely
top
a year
thirds,
of quantity. Maybe not the best year for quality in horror, but definitely a year of quantity.
I liked this movie. It was simple, but it was very well done, and I found it to be effective and just original enough in the right places. And that ending, sort of when you finally get to the center of his hell, I won't spoil it, but I found what to be down there to be aesthetically unnerving and grotesque and kind of worked, you know?
Okay.
So I liked it, Brett. I liked it.
I agree with a lot of what you said. This is a gorgeous movie. It does have the A24 horror sheen to it. But it also does something you don't often see in A24 horror, which is we get this monologue-heavy, sort of mustache-twitching, Vincent Pricey man in a creepy house villain, which I liked a lot. So for an A24 horror, it really leans on some classic tropes of like scary house, scary guy, evil plan horror movies. And I liked that a lot. Really, really loved Hugh in this. We'll see if this ends up on my top 10 Hugh Grant performances of all time.
The audience is like salivating. Like, will these movies and performances be on these guys' lists?
Well, you have to find out. Hang in there. We're doing this right after the Heretic review. The regardless of if it ends up in the top 10, the Hugh Assance continues unabated. He's just having fun in this movie, making a meal of the role. I loved it. And I don't want to hear about Wonka or Unfrosted. Those were not his fault. The Hugh Assance marches on without interruption. And we'll talk about more about his career arc in a little bit. Like you said, the other leads, Thatcher and East, I thought give really strong performances. And they really, in particular, like you were saying, they find this sweet spot of they fall into the villain's trap, but they're not idiots, you know? So it's this nice, it's not a horror movie where you're constantly going, what the fuck are you doing? Instead, you're kind of like, damn, he got you.
You're as unnerved as they are at every step. And every choice they make makes sense because of their circumstances.
But they are aware, they're resourceful, and they are a good match for Hugh in this movie. My problem with the movie is it just, for me, completely falls apart in the second half. I think maybe I was a little more invested in the plot than you were, and so when it started to fall apart, you were telling me you just started chugging popcorn and just sort of enjoyed the ride. For me, I was disappointed that it could not pay off a lot of what it was doing in Act 1 in Hugh's monologues and so forth about religion and polygamy and Joseph Smith and the secret origin of all religions, and I was like, I fucking love this. Where is this going? You better fucking pay this off. And I really felt like it didn't even remotely pay it off. I just didn't think in the second half of the movie that it had the skills to pay this very large bill that it racked up in Act 1. And I just don't think it knew what to do, you know? I mean, Hugh Grant's tease that he has found the secret origin of all religions ultimately amounted to very little for me. The creepy basement just didn't have quite enough tricks up its sleeve. And then the movie, in what I thought was its worst move, was kind of forced to resort to one of my least favorite devices in movies, where like one character just suddenly figures everything out all at once and then tells you the point of the movie, and then Hugh is like, oh, very good, you figured out my plan. And I was like, how she got it perfectly? How? No, you couldn't get from point A to point B through like compelling cinematic devices, and the movie was about to be over, and so one of the characters just has to sort of explain everything, and then the villain goes, that's it, you got it. You got me.
Great,
you got me.
Hey,
honestly,
she's still got to go down the hole.
Spot on. You recited my evil plan almost to it. I couldn't have said it better myself. There was a couple things in there I didn't even think of that I'm gonna take credit for.
I think what you're saying rings true, but I think you're being a little harsh.
Okay.
A little harsh.
Okay. It's just the kind of script that feels like they spent 2 years writing Act 1 and 2 days writing the rest of the movie, and that is just not. And the problem is, guys, I really liked Act 1, so I was really invested in where I thought you were going.
I felt
like it drove me off a fucking cliff. But unlike Thelma and Louise, it wasn't a triumphant driving off a cliff.
It was a sad one.
It was like Jack Nicholson's son in Smile 2.
Oh, no.
Yep. That's
It
the way
was a real Juror number 2 situation. TBD.
TBD.
We'll talk about
wait.
Juror number 2.
I can't wait to talk about all these movies. This was one of my favorite, randomly one of my favorite movie weeks of the year. What a crazy roller coaster ride between these different movies. So look, I did not hate Heretic. I think it's worth seeing in theaters. I just didn't like it very much either. Don't tease me with creepy Hugh Grant has discovered the meaning of the universe and then give me nothing that even remotely pays off that premise. Not Hugh's fault.
I was satisfied with the ending and thought that it sort of held up its end of the bargain with the seriousness with which the material was presented to us, which was, fun.
Okay, fair enough. Now let's get to these horror rankings. Joe, is this going to make an appearance in your top 12?
Margot, would you be so kind? I have forwarded you on Letterboxd at Joe Cilio. You can follow at home.
You got to follow this guy on Letterboxd.
All year 2024, I've been doing my horror power rankings. A power ranking, Brett, as you know, movies go up, movies go down. As time goes, your brain changes. The way you feel changes. It's flitting. But at the end of the year, this list will be solidified, and that will be the ranking.
Here we go.
But honeys and children, may I present to you
so
far, after enormous amounts of thought, care, and attention, my current post-Halloween 2024 horror power ranking. I'll quickly walk everybody through it, but Brett, you can see immediately that Heretic has premiered on my top 10.
Wow.
I was charmed by Heretic.
Yeah.
I found it to be. I love Hugh Grant like anybody loves Hugh Grant, but I don't love Hugh Grant like you love Hugh Grant.
As you'll find
he's
out.
fallible in my mind. So I'm not like a homer for Hugh Grant. I think that there's been too many girls trapped in a basement horror movies the past 4 or 5 years, ever since that Brie Larson one. Room.
You think Room gave us Barbarian?
I guarantee it. Room gave us Barbarian, gave us fucking, what was this called? Heretic. And the Black Phone. All of that. Because there was in the news, there was some guy that had some woman in his basement.
You're right.
That inspired all this. And Room is the thing.
Right, enjoy it now while you can, Heretic, because Nosferatu's coming. You're not ending the year in the top 10.
Well, look, it's also in death throes with 11
Cloud
and
is
12.
coming.
Strange Darling and Stop Motion.
Love
They're
Strange
all battling for 10. But
Strange Darling over Heretic over Strange Darling is controversial.
It is.
But I can see the argument based on what you've said about Heretic.
So, folks listening, I have Strange Darling at 11, Heretic at 10. Strange Darling has one of my favorite performances of the year in it, but it makes a lot of radically stupid choices. And
the performance is so good you almost don't notice, but
that's right.
You're right.
But
though.
Heretic just is gives me a fun performance, and also is I'm not going to also be annoying while I'm giving you a great performance like Strange Darling does. At 9, I have Eczema, which is an excellent international film about ghosts that has a great twist that really is just energetic.
Showed up on your mid-year awards. It showed up on your mid-year awards.
Well, yes, it did. At 8, I have Oddity. Now,
I've heard this is great.
This movie's amazing.
I've heard this is great.
Now it these are all great movies from Oddity up. I think Eczema is pretty great, but I think Oddity up. These are great movies.
That's top tier.
People love Oddity. I talk to other horror people that really know what the hell they're talking about. They have that 2, 3, 4. I think Oddity is excellent. It has my favorite bad guy of the year, the object that is bad in Oddity. I won't ruin it because it's truly fresh and scary and brilliant. So big ups to 8, Oddity. 7, I have The Substance. You guys can hate all you want. I think this baby is going to grow over time. I think it was energetic. I think, and this is going to feel personal, it's not at all directed to Brett or anybody I know. I just think in general that when movies are about beauty and women, they get a lot of attention online, which immediately kind of makes everybody annoyed because how annoying the internet is. And I just feel like Substance had a lot of discourse, and discourse is grating because discourse is just uncomfortable and people are stupid and it's hard to get through it. But I think when I put all that aside, I personally just think The Substance is as fresh and energetic as any sort of horror movie was this year, and it has wonderful performances, some big swings, and some great direction. It's kind of it's just vulgar in fun ways. I like the film.
I'm going to rewatch it, and I would not be surprised if my low opinion of it changes because it's just a movie that I'm okay, now I know what the game is. I thought it was a movie that wanted to say something, based on the themes and the topic of the movie. It's really not. It's a movie that wants to have so much fun with body horror. It it's like I'm going to use every fucking dime of this budget to have so much fun with body horror because, as though it's like the last body horror movie ever.
I know.
And the genre is getting
like
retired. Yeah. So I'm going to rewatch it with that in mind. And I think I might like it better.
I think it's such a such a gag.
It is.
And I think it's funny.
I love this.
6, I have Trap.
This. Controversial.
I have M. Night Shyamalan's Trap 6, and I tried to put it below some of these other ones, but here's the facts. That is a good time at the movies, period. Like, Trap is the best. Yep. Trap is my favorite. That was a good time at the movies movie almost of the year. Like, Trap is a movie I want to throw on again. It's really watchable. It's not, it's not brilliant. It makes you smile and it makes you laugh. It keeps you hooked. It kept me hooked. I love the performances. I love the tone. It feels so different. It's a totally different texture. And I just feel like it's kind of like a minor, like micro masterpiece by Shyamalan.
I agree with you. Because here's the thing with Trap and Terrifier 3 that I love about movies is that we can intellectualize movies. That's fun. We can talk about cinematic devices. We can talk about camera work, lighting, performance. We talk about all that stuff. At the end of the day, the thing that you can never argue with, if you're being honest, is the experience you had watching the movie. That's the first and foremost thing that matters. And I think you're right. I had a lot of fun watching Trap.
Just came out of Trap, smiling, smiled at my friends, at all of us looking at each other like, LOL, what a blast.
Yes, that's it.
Fucking love Trap.
That's it.
Love Trap. That's why it gets 6. 5. Now we're in our top 5 here, and these guys are going into the end of the year really strong. At 5, I have Damien Leone's Terrifier 3,
Hell yeah.
which we've talked about at length on this podcast. Gore, chutzpah, icons, and money.
The Christmas and the money,
the
money,
Christmas.
money. The Christmas
Great
thing
movie.
just was such a good choice for the franchise.
Right.
Amazing.
This is good.
Yeah.
At 4, this is going to be this is really the surprise for me of the list. I have Cuckoo at 4.
Yeah.
Like, more than Long Legs, more than The Substance, more than Strange Darling.
And you're talking about the sort of hot indie horrors of the year.
The hot indie
buzzy
horrors,
indie horrors
that feature like a young up-and-coming actor or actress that's like going places. For whatever reason, despite Dan Stevens, like he's really good in it. Even he's good in it, which is crazy. Cuckoo felt just the most original to me. I liked living in that world. It felt just the oddest. Cuckoo ends. Maybe perhaps you might have liked Heretic ending. I wonder.
Okay. All right. I still haven't seen Cuckoo. And
really?
I can't wait.
Okay.
No, Cuckoo and Oddity are like next up. For me.
Yeah, definitely check them out.
Yeah.
It's definitely on my rewatch. But Cuckoo has some staying power. I was in a pretty deep conversation with some horror folks that were doing Oddity. Like Oddity was their Cuckoo, but Cuckoo's my Cuckoo.
Okay, fair enough.
That's my 4. 3.
The Great Smile 2.
Top 3. 3. Smile 2. Smile 2. Smile 2. Smile 2. Both Smile movies are fucking amazing.
They're amazing. And go back and listen to our review of Smile 2. We loved it.
Number 2, we have the famous Japanese NFT Chime.
Oof.
You saw Chime.
No, I love Chime.
Kurosawa's Chime.
Yes.
Yes, it's an NFT. Yes, you can rent it. Yes, you have to rent it in Japanese yen or whatever the currency in Japan is.
And you have to people set the market rate for it.
That's fun in and of itself. But the movie, unfortunately, Brett, I'm having trouble lowering it. It sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
We watch a ton of movies this year. When you can think of more than 5 images from a movie 6 months after you watched it.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I can remember quite a few images and moments from Chime that really affected me.
Is there a scarier movie on here for you than Chime? In terms of dread. Smile 2 takes the cake
Smile
for
2
jump
has,
scares
exactly.
and stuff. But in terms of dread,
Smile
fear,
2 has the jump scares,
Yeah.
a James Wan-esque,
yes.
brilliant jump scare discipline. Chime is tension and dread and a sickening feeling in your stomach.
Probably the scariest.
And my number 1, I feel
I'm so happy to see this.
My number 1 so far this year.
Same, baby, same.
It combines those two things.
Yes.
It's smack full of dread, but it
Yes.
can also give you a jump scare, easy peasy. It does the religion thing right.
Yes.
It gives you a fucking wallop at the end. It has some of the best images of the year and an amazing horror performance. My number 1 horror movie of the year right now is The First Omen.
I love it. It feels like everyone's forgotten about it. We have not forgotten about it, and we will not stop talking about how good First Omen is. I agree. Best horror movie of the year so far.
Thank you.
All right. Let me, if I can, chew your ear off for a little bit about Hugh Grant. Now, something you may not know about me, audience, is that when all is said and done, when I consider the entirety of my life as a movie lover, if I'm being honest, which we are, that's what we do, we're honest.
I'm sorry.
Hugh Grant is, and remains my favorite movie star of all time. I'm sorry. He just is.
Dang.
And here's why. I first discovered Hugh in that post 4 Weddings and a Funeral phase where a lot of American audiences discovered him. I was fucking charmed. I was so charmed by this guy, by his floppy hair British shtick, his like cool Britannia era, just sort of wit and whimsy. But it has been Hugh's versatility over the years that has really won me over. His incessant desire to play against type, to constantly sort of interrogate his own sort of persona, and specifically, his desire to lean into villains and weirdos and creeps in this latter half of his career, that really, really has taken him to the top for me. In terms of my personal feelings, I think of him a lot like a reverse James Cagney, another of my favorite movie stars. Cagney, at heart, a song and dance man, a guy who wanted to do Busby Berkeley musicals and Yankee Doodle Dandy, but became typecast as a gangster because he was so good at being a gangster, White Heat, and et cetera, et cetera. Similarly, I think Hugh Grant was someone who, at heart, is born to play the villains and the weirdos and the creeps. It's what turns that little freak on and keeps him doing movies. But following the success of 4 Weddings, he became typecast as this sort of lovable romantic lead, and then had to find his way back to his sweet spot. And we're going to sort of trace his career and sort of follow the ups and downs of this thing. And watching him navigate these two poles over the last 20 plus years, doing a rom-com for the people, a weird movie for Hugh, a rom-com for the people, a weird movie for Hugh, has just made for what is people I think are now coming around to it in this sort of recent Hugh phase, but I think it's one of the most exhilarating careers in movies over the past 30, 40, 50 years. It hits so many of my buttons, it's almost embarrassing. And many years ago at this point, I wrote my list of the top 10 Hugh Grant performances. In honor of Heretic, I want to update that list. And I found this new list is very different. There's a lot of changes here. The biggest change is that first list included TV performances. This is movies, baby. We don't watch TV anymore. Sorry. We have too many movies to watch.
Very British Scandal demoted.
If this was TV and movies, it would still be Jeremy Thorpe in a very English Scandal.
You got it,
number 1 with a bullet.
Best.
One of the best period screen performances I've ever seen. He's so fucking good. If you have not seen A Very English Scandal, that first season with Ben Whishaw, oh my God, one of the best, most underrated TV seasons.
But we
of all
don't
time.
talk about that.
We don't talk about TV. Sorry, we don't talk about TV. I also want to make sure that I'm representing the breadth of Hugh's career because that's kind of the point of why I like him so much. So I'm going to go like phase by phase, era by era. Everything gets a slot, not too many redundancies. I really want to appreciate the variety of his career. Starting with what is probably the artistic low point of Hugh's career, but I think still has some great performances. This aforementioned post 4 Weddings era, when Hollywood gets a little peek at Hugh and they say, "Give me that," and then they're trying to sort of recreate the 4 Weddings magic, put him in a bunch of rom-coms. This is also, of course, the era of like the Divine Brown arrest, the Tonight Show apology, the Elizabeth Hurley breakup. This is like Hugh's tabloid A-list crazy era. It lasts roughly from 95 to 2002, and it's characterized by movies like 9 Weeks with Julianne Moore, 2 Weeks Notice with Sandra Bullock, and my number 10 performance, Mickey Blue Eyes from 1999, baby. I think this is the best of the second tier Hugh rom-coms, not at the level of Notting Hill, 4 Weddings, Bridget Jones. But it's the most like screwball-y. I like it. It's so goofy and silly. It's basically takes like floppy hair era Hugh and it marries him into the slapstick mafia. So it's like mob thing, but it's like slapstick, and he just gets to be like Hugh but have fun, and it's great. It's a really funny, silly movie, and it's also notable as all those like pre-Sopranos movies where you like watch a movie before 2000 and it has like 8 people from The Sopranos in it. Okay. I think this has the most. I would argue that Mickey Blue Eyes has the most like Sopranos of the Sopranos troupe before The Sopranos in it. We've got Tony Sirico, Pauly Walnuts. Yeah. We've got Vincent Pastore, Big Pussy. We've got John Ventimiglia, Artie Bucco. Damn. And there's like, those are the first 3 that come to mind. There's at least like a couple others in this movie. Sopranos actors all over the place. So Sopranos
and Hugh uses them,
dude,
like a fucking Zen master.
He does, baby. He
like
does.
Tai Chi master.
Dude, Hugh in Slapstick Sopranos. Mickey Blue Eyes is great. It's an underrated movie. It's very fun. James Caan's in it. At number 9, we got to recognize horror Hugh. I, at number 9, have Ken Russell's Lair of the White Worm from 1988. It's a very early Hugh performance. He plays Lord James Dampton. He's just, Lair of the White Worm is sort of like Ken Russell doing a Hammer horror.
Yep.
It's very British folk horror, and he's doing like English country aristocrat who confronts an ancient horror and has to fight it, and he's just effortless at it. It's not like a mind-blowing performance.
Justice for Heretic.
It's like Hugh in. Well, we haven't finished the list
yet.
Well,
that's true.
It's Hugh sort of almost in autopilot, but Hugh at autopilot is just so
Pretty
fucking
good.
lovable and good. And the movie around him is just so good. He's almost the best part of the performance is he just sort of exists in the movie. Like, he looks around him and says, "This movie's great. I'm just going to sort of do low key Hugh, and it's all going to be great."
Admirable.
So I love that. He knows what movie he's in, and he knows how to adjust his performances accordingly. Now let's get our first Richard Curtis on the list here, baby. His most frequent collaborator, the guy that put him on the map with 4 Weddings. You can't go wrong with any of the Richard Curtis movies. And at number 8, I've got the Christmas classic, Love Actually, baby.
Nice. I love that.
I love.
That's kind of low. I mean, Hugh has a lot of good
You're
stuff.
gonna forget.
I'm gonna
how
be like,
many,
oh,
you're
right,
gonna forget how many good
okay.
Hughes there are, and there
Okay.
might be 1 or 2 on here that you haven't seen yet that you need to see.
Okay.
I've got, or need to rewatch. You've probably seen all these, but need to rewatch.
I don't know.
He plays the Prime Minister in Love Actually, and I would argue
Of
that
course he does.
even more than Bill Nighy, even more than Emma Thompson, even more than that freaking Walking Dead guy who has the creepy signs outside of Keira Knightley's apartment.
Yes.
I think Hugh Grant is the tone setter of Love Actually. I think he is the heart of the movie. I think he is
Rickman 6 feet under, and you're going to do this?
Even Rickman. Look, everybody's great. I think Hugh sets the tone for everybody else and is the sort of the centerpiece of the movie. He's the compass of the movie. He's like sweet and horny and goofy, and that's the movie. And he like nails that vibe.
Without him, what are we doing here?
He's at the center of all the Venn diagrams in Love Actually. He's the heart of it. And he's keeping alive the dream of 90s cool Britannia that he started 10 years prior for just like one last shining moment in 2000 and post 9/11, which is referenced in the opening lines of the movie. I know you remember that?
Yeah.
The first lines are about like when the towers fell on 9/11. You're like, what the fuck?
Love Actually is a
that works.
9/11 movie. Oh,
yeah.
One of
Love
the
Actually is all around us.
The greatest, guys.
Look, if you don't love Love Actually,
come on now.
I would be curious to hear why, and then I will never speak to you again.
Margot,
but I would like to hear your last
I don't know
words.
if Margot's got the mic on, but Margot, do you like Love Actually?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Tepid yes.
I feel like I went too hard on...
No.
I won't disown you if you don't like Love Actually.
No,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can still talk to me, though.
All
Mario.
right. Sorry, Margot.
Best of all, though, in Love Actually, for Hugh, he outacts his nemesis, Colin Firth. So you know Love Actually must be one of his favorite movies, if for that reason alone. Next up, we've got his weird phase. I'm talking 2012 to the present day. And this starts with Cloud Atlas. The wonderfully weird Cloud Atlas goes through Paddington 2, The Gentleman, Operation Fortune, Dungeons and Dragons, Wonka Unfrosted. I love a lot of these performances. Cloud Atlas is just so fucking big and crazy. You get Hugh as like this cannibal king. But the thing about his performance in Cloud Atlas is I think the screenshots of him as the Cannibal King are ultimately a little more interesting than the performance itself. And that's nothing against him. He just if you watch the movie, he doesn't get a lot to do, or he doesn't get as much to do as you would think from those screenshots where he just looks wild and crazy. I know a lot of people love Paddington 2. I'm not obsessed with it in the way that some people are, but I do love Hugh in it. He's giving this sort of villainous aging actor past his prime, raging against the dying of the light. He's a real con man. He's real great. There's like a Dickensian aspect to the performance. Great stuff, just not my personal favorite of the group. That honor goes to his role as the sleazy private detective Fletcher in Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, baby. In The Gentleman, he only exists in the frame narrative timeline of the movie. He's kind of the narrator of the movie, but he's such a perfect narrator, and he's mastered this just sort of like, I don't know my London dialects that well, but it feels sort of Cockney, it feels sort of East End, and he's just this sleazy little PI, and he's so fucking good, and he leans into it, and when a performance has teeth, when a performance has some edge, Hugh loves that, baby. Hugh loves that. So I got The Gentleman at number 7. At number 6, Joe, the second and final horror movie on this list, I'm talking Heretic.
Wow, 6.
I love him in Heretic.
There you go.
I love him.
Damn.
And we already talked about it. So let's move on to number 5. There is this interesting subgenre to Hugh's career from 2002 to 2007 where he does all these movies that have something to do with like pop music. He does music and lyrics with Drew Barrymore, where he's like an old pop star, right? Mm-hmm. He does American Dreams, which is the like American Idol parody. Remember that movie? Yeah. I think most famously at my number 5 spot, he plays the nepo baby of a famous pop star in About a Boy, baby. I love About a Boy. I do think it doesn't give the best performance in the movie. I think Toni Collette probably would get that. But I love what he's doing in About a Boy because he's finding something in between. He's finding a rom-com persona that is in between the like super lovable Notting Hill character and the super sleazy Bridget Jones character. Here you get something more, maybe one of his most realistic, relatable performances. Just a sort of selfish guy living off his dad's money, who is capable of like changing and caring about people, and watching just a very sort of his like a leisurely moral arc in About a Boy is he's the perfect person, I think, to do that performance. I like About a Boy quite a bit. This is a movie that did not show up on my last top 10.
It didn't.
And now it's at 5.
Controversially so.
Now it's at 5.
I'm glad to hear it.
I listened to the people and I rewatched and I said, you're right.
I appreciate that.
At number 4, let's get into the period movies, baby. Let's get into the period pieces. I've got 2 of them on this list, starting with, at number 4, Sense and Sensibility, Ang Lee's excellent adaptation of the Jane Austen novel. He plays Edward C. Ferrars. He is like so soft and sweet in this movie. It is just like wild to watch this in comparison to his like darker roles. He's perfect. He's heartbreaking. He and Emma Thompson are just duking it out to see who can do Longing better. I think Emma wins by a nose, but tough competition. Hugh still nails it and comes in at 4. At number 3, the best of the Richard Curtis performances. Is it going to be Notting Hill? Is it going to be 4 Weddings? Is it going to be Notting Hill? Is it going to be 4 Weddings? Of course it's fucking 4 Weddings, baby. Are you kidding me? The performance that made his career and almost ended it by typecasting him. He is so fucking good in 4 Weddings. Oh my God. I've seen it 100 times. I hope to see it 100 more times before my inevitable funeral. I fucking love him in 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Notting Hill not making it on this list. That might be my most controversial omission. I think the reason is it's a performance that feels a little redundant with his 4 Weddings performance. I didn't think the list could fit both of them. And in Notting Hill, you could argue for About a Boy, but in Notting Hill, I think it's definitely a case of he's giving the like 3rd or 4th best performance in the movie. He's very solid, but there's a lot of great British character actors who he's got to be sort of just, he's got to really hold down the fort as the leading man, and then all these other actors around him get to have a lot of fun. So I think that does steal a little shine, where 4 Weddings, even though he is the rom-com lead, he's a weird rom-com lead in 4 Weddings. I think less conventional of a lead than in Notting Hill. And he gets to do a little character acting in 4 Weddings, where he doesn't get to do as much of that in Notting Hill. So that gets my number 3 spot. And number 2, the last period piece on the list, Joe, and this is with all due respect to great performances in Morris, the Merchant Ivory movie Morris. Restoration, a weird movie with Robert Downey Jr. about everyone's favorite historical period, the Restoration, like 17th century. Dude, it's a Miramax movie. It fucking is insane. I love it. Hugh is like this character out of like the Draftsman's Contract, that Peter Greenaway movie, but like dumber and sillier. It's amazing. Florence Foster Jenkins, An Awfully Big Adventure, Impromptu, where he plays Frederick Chopin, another movie I really like. Those are all great, but it's got to be one of my favorite movies of all time, and he is a very underrated part of this movie. Another Merchant Ivory movie, The Remains of the Day from 1993. I love this movie, one of my all-time favorites, and he plays a small but vital role as this sort of like, at first, this sort of like weak, virginal, aristocratic scion that Anthony Hopkins has to like give the birds and the bees talk to, and neither one knows what to do, and it's really funny and awkward in the garden. But then he's the one who sort of first sort of latches on to what's actually going on in this big aristocratic mansion out in the English countryside, which is that a certain faction of British aristocrats are essentially selling their soul to the Nazis in this aristocratic house. And he's the one that finds out about it and is trying to do something about it, and is now trying to get Anthony Hopkins to sort of grow a conscience and do something about it.
I gotta rewatch.
You gotta rewatch.
I don't remember Anthony Hopkins in it at all.
You mean Hugh Grant?
No, I don't remember Anthony Hopkins in it.
In Remains of the Day?
I don't remember. I don't remember the movie. I'm
you don't remember?
blanks.
I mean, Anthony Hopkins is the star of the movie.
I really don't remember this. I don't know if I've ever seen this movie.
Joe,
I feel like I don't think I have.
No. Your reaction right now is telling me you've never seen this movie.
Okay, yeah.
Put best. I think. I mean, it's close.
It's your number 2 favorite Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, and probably the best motion picture movie of all time. Watch Remains of the Day.
Okay.
ASAP.
Okay.
ASAP.
Maybe I'll watch tonight. It's Thursday night.
Watch it tonight, baby. So fucking good.
Okay.
It's got so many themes that you will salivate
over.
Love. Salivate over.
Good. I don't know this.
And last but not least, I think it's kind of a forgotten movie. Like, I don't hear about it mentioned a lot. I think it's a masterpiece with a capital M.
Love that.
Last but not least, my number 1 Hugh Grant performance of all time. What is it going to be? What have I not mentioned?
Paddington?
I've alluded to it. No, while you were gone, I talked about Paddington. Paddington did not make it.
Okay. Bridget Jones?
Yes, baby. Daniel Cleaver and Bridget Jones. This is like he dropped a bomb on the rom-com with Daniel Cleaver and Bridget Jones' Diary. This is the equivalent of when Henry Fonda played the bad guy in Once Upon a Time in the West. This is Hugh turning an entire genre on its head by being so goddamn perfect as scumbag boss Daniel Cleaver, and he unlocked an entirely new chapter to his career. That moment early in the movie where they play Aretha Franklin's Respect and the elevator doors open and Daniel Cleaver just does the slightest little smug grin and struts out in slow motion like he's the fucking king of the world and he's so fucking sexy and sleazy, and you're like, what is happening? If you're watching this chronologically in 2001, you're like, what? This is like, I'm looking at Hugh Grant, but like I'm looking at the Hugh Grant of Four Weddings. I'm looking at the Hugh Grant of the Richard Curtis universe, but something's different. Like, what's happening? What's different is this guy's here to fucking ruin your day, baby. This is not a nice guy. This is a fucking scumbag. And Hugh fucking crushes.
Yeah.
I think Bridget Jones' Diary is a massively underrated movie, massively important movie in the history of the rom-com. So good. We're getting a new one. I don't know if you saw. We're getting a new one. Mad About the Girl.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I fucking love this franchise. And Hugh Grant as Daniel Cleaver is my number 1.
I love that. Bro.
My number 1 Hugh Grant performance of all time.
I would be mad if it wasn't.
Yeah, movie performance. Right,
because
with all due respect,
we all know about
a very British
scandal.
Great
list.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for updating it because I couldn't sleep at night with your old list. This is much better.
It is a better list. It is a better list.
Yeah, it has About a Boy on it for goodness sake. How do you have Hugh Grant and not have About a Boy? But now you do. So there's no problem.
Because I am the world's biggest Hugh Grant stan. So I know all the little nooks and crannies. I know all the little corners, baby.
I'm so excited. Like, Heretic made both our lists. In like a month, will it be on either of our lists?
Hard to say.
Yours?
Hard to say.
Yes. Maybe. Mine? Maybe.
I just really liked how it's what Hugh does best, where he like weaponizes his own shtick. So he's like, I love how in Heretic he's giving you old school mumbly, sort of bashful British Hugh Grant, but it's a strategy to like fuck you and lock you in the basement.
Right,
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
Me too.
We got 3 movies left to talk about here.
Wow.
Why don't we actually? All right, let me do my Emilia Perez review real quick. Is that fine? All right, here we go. Written and directed by Jacques Audiard, the French auteur responsible for A Prophet, The Beat That My Heart Skipped. Typically does these sort of artsy, unconventional French crime movies, you could say. And this movie is mostly Spanish language. Takes place in Mexico, not in France or in a French-speaking country, and it's based on a opera libretto that Audiard wrote. It stars Zoe Saldana, Carla Sofia Gascon, Selena Gomez, heard of her, Edgar Ramirez is in here, and it's about a feared cartel leader. Think El Chapo kind of character. Who is as the movie starts out, is like a pre-op transgender woman who is trying to figure out, how do I escape this life of crime and drugs in order to become who I really am, and that process is facilitated by Zoe Saldana as this lawyer, and then Selena Gomez is the wife of the cartel leader, who is sort of lied to and told that the cartel leader has died. Meanwhile, the cartel leader is going off to Switzerland to transition, and the cartel leader also has kids that also think that their who they knew as their father died, but then in this incredible twist. It essentially in the second half of the movie does like the Mrs. Doubtfire plot in the middle of this incredible sort of wild musical that I'm going to talk about. But essentially the cartel leader comes back in their life as like this mysterious aunt, and then like that way like reconnects with Selena Gomez and the kids, and then there's still cartel stuff going on, and it's wild. Let's see. Its original songs were contributed by oops, sorry, I don't have that name here. Something Camille. Oh, just Camille. Just one name. Okay. So original songs contributed by Camille Dalmay. There it is. Camille Dalmay, who goes by the mononym Camille. And then the original score was provided by Clement Ducol. The choreographic sections of the film are designed by Damien Jalette. And I shout them out because this is a fucking musical with a capital M. I actually think it's probably closer to an opera than a musical, not just because it was based on a libretto, but because it just has like music in its like bones. You know, it's not just like big show-stopping numbers. It is like little like rhythms and sort of syncopations will come in and just be like under a line of dialogue and then go out, and like dialogues like won't break into full song, but they will break into this sort of like rhythmic singing back and forth. There's like a scene where like the like sicarios are all loading their guns, and it like slowly turns into this like rhythmic sort of dance of like loading the guns. So it feels much more like a ballet or an opera in the way that it employs music. I think it's just as a movie, it's easier to classify it as a musical. You know, that's the genre that we would think of, but it really feels closer in type to sort of opera or ballet. It's very expressionistic in the way that it uses music. It's not just, you know, sort of like Wicked or something, just like, you know, you're just waiting for Defying Gravity. It's like there's music in sort of every sort of inch of it to some extent.
Wicked fans gonna come get you for that.
Come and get me, baby. I love both, but I think I love Emilia Perez a little bit more because this movie, distributed by Netflix, is getting tons of Oscar buzz right now. Yeah. And the question on everybody's tongues now that it's out on Netflix is it deserved? This is the big, I feel like out of all the Oscar buzz movies, this is the big, like, is it overhyped or is it the real deal movie? Because it's taking such stylistic risks and it's so unconventional. And in my humble opinion, Joe, you bet your fucking ass the hype is deserved. Emilia Perez fucking rocks. My review of Emilia Perez, go watch Emilia Perez. There's so little that I can sort of say to adequately prepare you for this movie. There's also very little I can do to convince you that it's good if you don't think it's good. The great thing about this movie is it is going to be divisive, and that might hurt its award season opportunities. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show on Patreon, but it's going to have its super fans. It's going to have its detractors who say it's messy. I found this movie to be exhilarating, bold, and actually not messy at all. I thought there was, like I was saying about the music, I thought there was so much precision to this movie, to the music, to the dance sequences. I thought it was a great combination of filmmaking mastery with this like wild, uncontainable creative spirit. And unlike Joker 2, which we watched earlier this month, this movie, to say it again, wants to be a musical. It fucking wants to be a musical. It needs to be a musical. It can't like help being a musical. The music just sort of bubbles out of it. It's incredible the way it happens. And it's a movie that I wonder if a lot of the negative reviews were people who established that a negative feeling about the movie in the first 20 minutes or so, and then just sort of like were sort of checked out. Because I will say the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie, there's a lot of like work done to like establish the sort of rules of the movie, establish the dynamic of the movie. A lot of the real fun and the big gut punches and the really exciting musical numbers are coming in the second half of the movie. And that's not to say that the first half didn't work. It's just a movie that has to kind of like establish some things in order to do what it wants to do. And so there's just a little more sort of like tedium maybe to the first 15 to 20 minutes. There's like one musical number that is kind of iffy. But man, when it starts to dig in, it digs in hard and does not let up, and it has some, like, for a movie that's very heavy on style, it has real emotion to it. There's a couple real just sort of big emotional numbers. And so you're getting the best of both worlds, like, yeah, with all these sort of avant-garde uses of music, but also some just big fucking arias in there.
Sounds really good.
It's great. The three leads are fantastic. They all deserve awards consideration, but Zoe Saldana is the standout for me. I think, you know, she's been doing a lot of action movies throughout her career. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is a big example, but a lot of other sort of sleeker, smaller action movies. I really feel like that action movie training came in really handy here because she is so like physically amazing in this movie, and particularly in the dance sequences. The way she does some of these dance sequences, she's like transcending the choreography. You know, when you see a dancer that is so locked in, they are just like, they're not just doing the moves, they're like expressing the moves. They're like they've figured out the choreography so much. It's real instinctive. She's so fucking good in this.
That's amazing, man.
Yes, she's amazing. But the other two leads performances are great as well. I fucking loved Emilia Perez. Go watch it this weekend on Netflix. I wouldn't be surprised to see it in the Best Picture conversation for the rest of, between now and the Oscars. I also wouldn't be surprised to see it in my top 10 at the end of the year. We'll see.
Whoa.
All right, Joe, let's talk about Juror number 2, a movie we've talked about a lot. This weird sort of fake rollout, Warner Brothers trying to bury it, then being ashamed, or being shamed into not fully burying it, giving a little bit of a theatrical release, a little FYC campaign. Co-produced and directed by Clint Eastwood, written by Jonathan Abrams, stars Nicholas Hoult, Toni Collette, J.K. Simmons, Kiefer Sutherland. We got Cedric Yarborough in here. We got Chris Messina in here. The DP was Yves Belanger. It was distributed by Warner Brothers, sort of. Joe, what'd you think of Juror number 2?
Okay, first of all, I heard out of Warner Brothers, this is what they said. They said,
okay,
Clint, this was always made for Max, and Clint said, okay. And they said if it's really good and people like it, we'll give it an honorable limited release, which they did. And they said that the limited release was the honor. It wasn't the slight.
Wow.
That's what they said.
What world is that true in?
I don't know.
It's fucking Clint Eastwood.
I don't know. What I think of the movie.
Yes.
Okay. Not that good, right?
Go.
Okay. All right. So the movie. Clint's 94. This movie has Nicholas Hoult having a difficult moral dilemma. I'm joking. I think this movie is good, but I don't think this movie is great. I think this movie is going to be, it has people are interested in it because two things. A, there's a dearth of adult geared movies in the multiplexes, and then two is it's Eastwood's last movie. If Eastwood makes another movie, I don't think we have to worry about Juror number 2 forever. I think Juror number 2 is just like, I think what it shows is Clint's, well, A, there's the political angle of the movie. In this movie, the sort of moral interest is that we're all trying our best and we're all simultaneously guilty. It's like one sort of reading of this.
It's like a reverse 12 Angry Men kind of thing where Nicholas Hoult is the juror in this murder trial, and he realizes that he when he starts to hear about the evidence in the trial, he realizes that he is like personally involved in the trial in ways that he didn't fully understand before, and is thus sort of compromised. And but then everyone is ready to convict this guy, but because of his sort of guilt about his own complicity, he tries to sway them away from that, but not for like the honorable reasons of Henry Fonda in 12 Angry Men,
which is very interesting. So Henry Fonda is now, secretly a murderer during 12 Angry Men.
Great plot.
Well executed.
Great premise.
I think it was a great plot. I think it was well written. I think it was well acted. I liked all the supporting people from J.K. Simmons to there's like a bunch of popular faces in the crew, and everybody decides to not try to outperform each other. It's a really nice, contained little movie. It's very interesting morals. It has Toni Collette in it. She's and Clint Eastwood directed it, and it's a good script. So I think this is a good movie. But it's just kind of funny, another great American director ended his career with a courtroom drama, the superlative 2023 Kane Mutiny Court Martial by William Friedkin. One of the best movies of that year.
I thought you were going to say that
Joker 2.
That Vin Diesel movie that Sidney Lumet did at the end of his life. I was like, are you about to say fucking Find Me Guilty? I'm about to kick your ass out of this building.
No.
All right.
In the Kane Mutiny Court Martial, which, Jake Lacey plays the Nicholas Hoult of that movie. And in Kane Mutiny Court Martial, Kiefer Sutherland plays Captain Queeg. And so in that movie, it's all about Friedkin's still like mad at the military. And that movie's about, actually, it's our leaders that are imperiling us. And I think that just like, and Friedkin ended his life with a Friedkin-esque like, F you, the man. And it's just like Eastwood's ending his career sort of honorably and maturely accepting that our justice system is not only imperfect, but flawed. And so are we. Whether we are, convicted criminal or seemingly innocent. So I like that difference, but Friedkin is so much more kind of locked in with $0. And Eastwood is eating a bag of chips, spinning around in his chair, and I think the camera work is bad. I think it's also reminds me of a lot of late Clint Eastwood, and I like this. There's like a lovely, charming, distilled simplicity to these late Eastwood oddities, and some of them are amazing and some of them are pretty good. And again, this movie is pretty good. I liked this movie. Like, you'll like this movie. It's a courtroom drama that's very competent and just interesting enough. But I definitely don't think that this is an award season film. I actually think that it should go on Max, because it's kind of content.
You were swaying me until that. I think you said a lot of things that make that are
true.
I don't
know
about the movie.
I don't know if I believe the last thing I said.
I loved watching this in a theater.
No, me too.
With just a lot of senior citizens.
Here's what I'll say. I'll say when a bunch of like a bunch of suits sat down to watch this movie, I can see why they wouldn't like understand the like intellectual nuances of like the 50-year sort of culmination of an Eastwood's Americana sort of, and at the end of the day, Eastwood's ruminating on justice. Now in France, the movie did gangbusters because they're like available for that.
This is what they get. All the people who are waiting for the next Woody Allen movie are like, all right, we'll do Juror number 2 in the meantime.
But let me tell you something. Like in France, this made $3.1 million opening weekend and like did gangbusters, and they love Clint and they have always loved Clint. But it's just so funny, France. Like, you guys are whatever. You guys are so you. But Triet just made Anatomy of a Fall, and it is kind of like, and that also has to do with did he slip? Was it on purpose? Right, and like talking it out. Right. And Anatomy of a Fall is
it's like
fucking. It's like a novel.
Yeah, it's not the same as.
Juror number 2 is for Max.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm pushing that to be funny, but I also like y'all are tripping, telling me that this is like. How dare you? It's like Clint agreed to it. It's pretty good. That cost $35 million. Hey.
It cost $35 million?
It cost $35 million.
That's all cast.
Good cast.
Yeah, that's
good
all
cast, good acting, good script, good movie. I'm just sitting here. It's just not an award season nom for me. I think Holt is really good.
A different type of a role for him, too.
I think he is understated, and I appreciate from Clint Eastwood to the cinematography all the way down. I actually appreciate the understated nature of this movie. And I think it was a bit of a relief to not watch some highly stylized, over-intellectualized, confusing barn burner. And it's so nice to watch these old guys just like distill these movies down to their parts. And like at the end of their lives, Friedkin and Eastwood are just they're shooting plays, baby. They're shooting plays, baby.
I agree.
I love that.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I think where I liked the movie a little bit more is just that I was starved for this type of movie, patient movie about a complex moral dilemma. Because you hear this phrase thrown around a lot. Oh, finally a movie for adults. Oh, a movie for adults. So many times that phrase gets thrown out, and I'm like, this isn't for adults. This is for like fucking like. Coked up, aimless people in their 20s. What do you mean for adults?
This is a thoughtful, good movie for adults. I'm with you.
It is, and I realize like what makes like a movie for adults is like complex moral dilemmas that don't resolve themselves easily by the end of the movie and that linger long after the movie. And I think you get a really good one in this movie. I think you get, a protagonist whose actions collectively amount to like high villainy, but who is kind of just a normal guy who's mostly good. but because of this one extreme situation he sort of falls into and keeps making what I would say are immoral decisions over and over and over again.
But you see why he makes them. Like it's one of those. It's a smart movie, well written, and the thing feels good going down.
because of the different, this sort of like he's trapped in between this sort of family he's trying to sort of grow. His wife is pregnant, and this past he's trying to get beyond. He was like an alcoholic, multiple DUIs, and this like a horrible thing that sort of accidentally happened that he's involved in. It's the movie that you kind of are watching as like you're like, I don't know what I would do differently. Right. It's such a hard situation with no winning choice. It's like I don't know what I would do differently.
Just like you have to sit there and be honest with yourself. Like, honey, you're not turning yourself in and going to jail for your whole entire life.
Right.
Like maybe eventually at the end of the movie you might do that, but like for the whole runtime, you're not turning yourself in because of all these. The movie does a good job setting up these specifics of why he wouldn't do.
But that means someone else is gonna go to jail. Yeah,
and that's ripe. And the movie is really good.
Yeah,
it's just not a masterpiece.
And we are also not. I will say we are. I mean, A, we gave you the disclaimer. B, what we're talking about is basically the premise of the movie that's established very early on. And there's a lot of twists and turns and a very interesting open-ended ending that I liked a lot.
15 minutes in, the inciting incident.
This is the premise.
The inciting incident is you learn this man is stuck in this thicker than he thought.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So I would say watch Juror number 2, either in theaters or when it comes out on Max. Definitely worth a watch. A very, very interesting moral dilemma courtroom drama that I liked a lot.
It's good.
Let's talk about We Live in Time, Joe.
Yeah, wait.
I watched this. You didn't. This is a movie.
Brett's had like a devilish, Grinch-esque sort of like grin. You know that part when the Grinch has the good idea and like his lips curl around and he's all
like Hugh Grant and Heretic.
That's what you giving me the Grinch face.
I'm giving you the Grinch face because, first of all, We Live in Time is a romantic comedy drama. It's directed by John Crowley from a screenplay by Nick Payne. The DP was Stuart Bentley. It's distributed by Studio Canal. And it follows the relationship between Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh over the course of a decade. He is like a accountant at Weetabix, and I love this movie. Like assumes that American audiences like have a real like reference point for Weetabix. It's like a corny snack item, right?
I didn't know what you were talking
about.
Like,
it's like a Triscuits.
Got it.
So he's like he's like an accountant for Triscuits. He has a funny little office job. She is this like award-winning James Beard level chef. Okay,
cool.
And it follows their relationship over the course of a decade. It's non-linear. You're constantly bouncing forth between the past and the present. Oh, Joe. Now we've been joking, and there's a very sad thing that happens with Florence Pugh, which you can guess from the trailer. She gets ovarian cancer. We've been joking about We Live in Time for a minute now.
Yeah.
But it's also the kind of joking. It's like the way you joke about something that you're scared of.
That's right.
In order to like defang it so it can't like kill you in your
when
sleep.
Because when we watched the trailer, we looked at each other like, we're going to cry. We're going to cry.
We're going to cry more than we've ever cried. This movie's going to eviscerate us.
That's what I expected. And you're a big crier.
I'm a big
crier. You love a rom-com. Yes. So we sent you as our like, man on the street to go in there. The ingredients
were there.
See what happened. How was it?
Joe, the verdict is We Live in Time eviscerated me with a capital fucking E. And the bigger surprise, I also really liked it. I really fucking liked this movie.
It was a great movie and you cried like a baby.
Yes, I really liked maybe one of my best movie-going experiences of the year. Yes. I was
so happy to hear this.
By how this movie played out beyond the trailer, beyond my expectations.
It's a good movie.
It is funny and charming and devastating. It's the kind of movie, once again, it's the kind of movie, they say it a lot, it's true, it's the kind of movie they do not make anymore. It is a throwback, like weepy rom-com from the 90s, where it would have rom-com beats, but somebody in it's going to die. It does that. It does it perfectly. It's really sad. It's really funny. It's really charming. It is also, first and foremost, and this is what I want to focus on, Joe. First and foremost, it is a fucking stage for Garfield and Pugh. Tell me. Stage, Joe.
Who wins?
Oh my God.
How's it go?
We win. The fucking audience wins, okay? Because these two said, what are we going to do for our big award season bid this year? What's going to be our big award season role? I also have to imagine that everyone involved with the making of this movie is shocked that more people are not talking about this movie. Because this movie was like they got to be like, everyone's talking about the fucking Blake Lively rom-com with sad stuff in it and not our amazing rom-com with sad stuff in it? Like, what happened? I am kind of shocked that more people are not talking about this movie. It is like made to be talked about.
So it's not based on a book, I guess?
That must be part of it. That must be part of it. I don't know if that's a good question.
I wonder if it's original or adapted,
I think it's like from a screenplay by Nick Payne. There's no indication of based on. So it's an original script. That must be part of it.
And then you think, I don't know if you associate Garfield necessarily with box office like gold, but you certainly
outside of Spider-Man.
You certainly would think that like Pugh plus Garfield plus rom-com equals some butts and some seats, but no.
It feels like this movie is flying way under the radar, and I think that is a shame, Joe, because instead of picking, I think we should reward Garfield and Pugh for this, because instead of picking a Maria Callas biopic, no shade to Angelina Jolie, or a Vatican thriller, a little bit of shade there to Ralph Fiennes, to do their big like awards bait performance. They picked this old-fashioned movie with two normal people roles, and they fucking crushed, Joe. Holy shit. Are Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh really good at acting? Yeah. Oh my God.
Pugh's the best actor
alive. My God.
She's our Meryl Streep, I always say. She's the best actor of her generation.
Well, if Pugh is our Meryl Streep, I'm at the end of this going to propose who I think Garfield is. No, hold on, okay?
Garfield's...
Now, their performance in this, just hold on, okay? We're going to get there. Let's follow the primrose path, baby. Their performances in this movie have that quality of great movie acting where it's all so relatable and real, but also like no one on planet Earth has ever behaved like this.
So
it's like
hot
it's so it's like it's so real,
yeah,
so real. And then I was like, if I saw someone in real life acting like Andrew Garfield acts when he's just like sitting alone at a table in a restaurant, I'd be like, Amy, like what the fuck is with this guy? Yeah. Why is he
so
okay?
Nervous.
Yeah, he's so like
bonking
what's
his
happening?
Head, right.
Did you see that TikTok video that was going around about like the couple on the subway in New York that was having like the most intense fucking moment ever? Like there was either like an argument or a breakup or something. There's this TikTok video going around being like, what, are these two think they're in a movie? Like what's going on? It's like that. Okay. It's like we're like, but in the movie world, the movie with me sitting there, it's the realest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. It's so real. Oh my God. And on one level, this movie is diabolical because it does that thing that these weepy rom-coms do where it's like hey, like what if we took the two most perfect people on planet Earth and just something fucking horrible happened to them? Wouldn't that be fun? Like what if we took fun little charming Andrew Garfield and just like stunning tough cool Florence Pugh and we fucking ruined their lives, baby? Do you want to come along on that ride with us? Do you? Do you want to come along on that ride? But that's just on one level. And even on that level, it worked. I was a fucking puddle in this movie, Joe. I was a wreck. I had like chills throughout throughout the movie.
I can't see this movie, man.
But here's why you need to watch. You will. I did not ultimately find the movie to be exploitative, which I think was kind of like our big like verdict. Was like, are the tears going to be exploited out of us or are they going to be earned? And I felt like they were earned.
Yeah.
Because thanks to the performances and a really like solid script that knew this was going to be a performance movie and not like a writer's movie, I thought everyone sort of shared and did their roles really well, and they all knew that like we are creating a stage for Garfield and Pugh to fucking rock, and they did rock. And the movie is just also like so charming. It's like so fucking charming, and that sort of softens the edges a little bit. It's like if the dinner scene in Notting Hill, remember when like he's with his friends all at dinner and they're all, it's just the classic rom-com scene, but it also has like little hints of trauma and sadness, and they're all being so honest. I love that scene. Yeah. Imagine if that scene was a movie. Right. That's kind of We Live in Time. And
it sounds so pleasant, but also so devastating.
It is. It's both at once, and it's like, and because of the pleasantness,
when Sarah,
like
my wife, gets word of this,
you'll see
it shall be watched.
Sarah, you need to.
This is my wife's.
Listen to what I'm
kind of
telling
movie.
you. Yes, you're gonna love We Live in Time. Okay, and because when it really starts to dig its claws in, there will be, because they're also like, their lives are like, they live in an impossibly gorgeous house in like the Cotswolds or something and everything. And so for a while you're just like watching somebody else's life, but there will be a moment somewhere in the movie, I don't know if it'll be the same one for you as it was for me, but there will be a moment where like you notice like some move or gesture or line or something, and it like, and you for a second like see your own partner in the movie, and from that point on the movie has you by the fucking it has you. Done. It fucking has you.
What if everything you loved?
What if this happened to me? What if this happened to me?
Not happy.
You and it's just you are fucked after that. You are fucked. Now,
I'd rather watch Art like cut a guy in half with a chainsaw Like that's like where my
So, yeah.
isn't that messed
Yeah.
up?
No.
Like it's much easier to watch art like take a chainsaw and cut a man from nave to the chop.
It is
rather
not messed
than
up.
fucking-
Great
yeah.
illusion
Thanks.
there. It is not messed up because we need to have a real conversation about how emotional the emotional work that actually gets done in movie theaters when we watch these movies. Everybody's talking about, Terrifier 2 is so perverse and fucked up. Not really. You know what's perverse and fucked up? We live in time, but it earns it, and I love it. Yeah. One last word now on Andrew Garfield. Who is this guy? What does he do? Because I was sitting there desperately looking for a life raft so I didn't drown in my own tears. Yeah. And I was like, all right, let me get to the bottom of Andrew Garfield. Pew I basically get because she's
Best
just so
actor
good.
of her
Yes.
generation.
Garfield, you're watching him and he does so much.
Yeah, I know.
But 90% of it is good, is the right choice, so you kind of let him do so much because you want to play the odds with him and be like, I love it, keep doing everything, baby, keep doing 800 movements with your eyebrows and eyes and mouth and this and that and hands through hair and everything. Honestly, keep doing it because most of it works all the time. Now, the whole movie I was like, what is Andrew Garfield? Who is this person? What are his analogs? Who is he to this generation? I like that Florence Pugh is our new Meryl Streep, and I think that Andrew Garfield is he's not this, but he's so close to it. And I just
Anthony Perkins.
I just wonder if we could turn a couple knobs and get him there. If we can tweak this a little bit and tweak this, I think Andrew Garfield could be his generation's Tom Hanks. I think he could be Hanks. And here is why. Now, he needs to be slightly less theater kid, and he needs to be a little broader, and he has to actually be funny. Those are kind of the hurdles right now, but here's what he does that is so underrated in Hank's career, I think, and I think is a very underrated thing and a very hard thing to do, is Garfield leans in with his entire fucking body and being to being sincere and good, which is fucking scary. Right. We don't talk enough how look, I love Hugh. Yeah. Hugh was fuck sincere and good. It's too hard and I don't like the work. I'm going to go be creepy and eccentric and weird. Yes. It is a hard thing to nail genuinely good-hearted characters, and that's what this character is. This is he is playing the best fucking boyfriend that has ever existed, and as a reward for being the best boyfriend that's ever existed, the love of his life dies of cancer in front of him.
Brett,
but
I can't. Man.
He is so fucking in it. He is so committed to it, and he says, "You're gonna go on this journey, and guess what, baby? Guess what?
What?
I'm not gonna lose it. I'm gonna go through this tragedy, and I'm gonna retain some of this light. Some of the light is gonna make it through to the other side." And Andrew Garfield says, I swear by the sheer power of my charm, I'm gonna retain some of the light on the other side of this tragedy. And look, I know the corny trope of the female suffering movie. But guess what? It's Florence. It's Florence fucking Pugh. So this isn't a female suffering movie. She crushes. Okay, it's a movie about two people confronting death together, and it's honestly kind of fucking amazing. I highly recommend that you go see it. I highly recommend that you see this movie.
That's a really nice review. I'm gonna cry. I hate it. I can't. I will, but I can't.
You have to see it.
I love Pugh. I like your Garfield take. I think that's actually really interesting. He has a long road to walk, and there are some hurdles to be jumped. But I see where you're driving at.
Yes,
it's definitely a thinker. I think it's a good take. I need to go back and do some research in the lab.
Yeah,
but I hear what you're saying.
No, you do. Like I said, we got to tweak some knobs. He definitely has to bring theater kid knob down. He's got to bring every man up. Yeah. He's got to forget that he's British. He's got to lose that. He's got to lose that. But it's there.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else who's even in the ballpark is why I'm bringing it up. He's kind of there.
I gotta think about it.
Tweak a couple knobs, baby. Be our Tom Hanks. I went from kind of having almost no opinion about Andrew Garfield to thinking about him nonstop for the last 24 hours after this movie. I'm invested.
Were other theater goers crying as well?
It was AMC Burbank 6, so it was all teenagers making out and me weeping into my fucking junior mints.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was surreal.
Great.
Like 6 teenagers making out and me being like, but what would I say to my boy if this happened?
Stop it, Brett. I cannot with this. No more movies. It's too good. It's too beautiful.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
You're
making me.
You're about to cry based on me talking about it.
I am.
Oh. Right. Usually I hate corny sort of like Mumford & Sons adjacent soundtracks. It was almost a relief. Terrible soundtrack, by the way. It was almost a relief by the way it like sort of like moderated my emotions because I was like,
because if it had like hit the right chord,
I was like, if you play like a Chopin nocturne, I might have to kill myself. So thank God the soundtrack was corny.
Hey, ho.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of Lumineers on the soundtrack.
Oh.
Oh my God, that movie. All right.
Shake it off.
Honestly, maybe we just never speak.
You're crying too.
I know.
Yeah, all right.
I'm reliving actual memories of the movie. Maybe we never speak about We Live in Time again.
I bet he loves her so much.
Joe,
and I bet she's
no
so
one has
great.
ever as like.
And I bet she has so much to live for, and he's so great. He just got there.
I love my wife as much as I am capable of loving another person.
Not as much as
Andrew Garfield just is capable of loving another person more than I am.
Well, that's undeniable. No, that's undeniable.
In this movie, okay? I'm at my peak. I'm capped out. Andrew Garfield capped out a little higher.
He's got more love to give than you. It's honest. It's honest.
I dare anyone to say they have more love to give than Andrew Garfield. Not even fucking Quiz Kid Donnie Smith has more love to give than Andrew Garfield and We Live in Time.
It's the new wife guy challenge. Do you love your wife as much as Andrew Garfield?
Do you think you're a wife guy? Ask if are you more of a wife guy than Andrew Garfield?
In We Live in Time.
Not in Click Click Boom.
Never Let Me Go. It's Tick Tick Boom.
Tick Tick.
Homophobe. Click Click
All right.
Boom.
Well, that's Charlie XCX, right? I don't know. It's close.
You're done.
All right. All right, y'all. Are you still with us? Okay. All right. Really quick. Our intrepid chat here did look up that comic book movie question.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like if we take 2020 out of the equation, obviously, it looks like 2015 was the last time that there was only one comic book movie in the top 10 at the end of the year box office. It was the second Avengers movie. So it's been a decade.
Wow.
A decade.
Cool.
And I think it's going to happen again this year. All right. That wraps it up for Movies Baby this week, but don't go anywhere. Head on over to the Patreon if you're not there already, patreon.com/moviesbaby, because you're not going to want to miss this, baby. This is some good shit we're about to get into.
Oh, it's time.
It is award season, baby,
It's time.
and we're going to do our first Oscar Power Rankings. What we've done is I have painstakingly, Joe, for our enjoyment, I've gone through several of the trades, several of the awards tracker websites, and I've done a composite of all of their rankings. So we're going to look at what is essentially the composite right now power rankings out there in the ether.
Exciting.
And we're going to sort of hot take it back and forth, and we're going to come up with our own current power rankings. And this is fun because this has nothing to do with whether we like these movies, has nothing to do with our personal opinion.
A lot of them,
this is just us reading the tea leaves, reading the vibes, trying to figure out where the mood of the country is at.
Hollywood owes her.
Yes,
right,
exactly.
That kind of stuff, yeah.
So are we going to get a career award for Ridley Scott? These kind of questions. So we'll go through all these old dynamics. Tonight we're doing Best Picture, Best Director. We'll come up with our power rankings. Where are we currently at? Who's rising? Who's falling? We'll see who's just outside of the circle, who's at the top. And then next week we'll do the performance categories. I cannot wait to do this. Don't go anywhere. Please join us on the Patreon for that. Patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. We'll see you there in 10 minutes. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, next week. Sorry, next week. Next week we are doing fucking Red One. Red One. Joe, we got to talk about this incredible new Guy Madden movie, Rumors.
There it is.
Oh my God, it's so wacky and amazing. And then we're going to do, like I said, our Oscar Power Rankings for performances. I jumped the gun a little bit, but now we're ready to say bye. Are you ready?
Bye.